Hi everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the George Collection. I'm Rachel with Right Side Blonde. Today we're going to be talking about the second George cover with Hillary on the front. This month we're talking about Hillary. Next month we'll be talking about the covers with the headlines with the CIA on it. The cover is Why Hillary Won't Be Senator. This was written in April of 1999. This was the year that she announced her run for the Senate in New York. And famously, this is the year that JFK Jr. died in his plane crash in July of that year. So it's interesting that his magazine, George, came out in April of 1999 and said, Why Hillary Won't Be Senator, and they would have been racing against each other. Without further ado, let's read. Why Hillary Won't Run. New York Democrats are looking for a hero to help them keep a Senate seat, but Hillary Rodham Clinton won't hit the hustings for her own candidacy. Not just yet. The candidate lights up the small, windowless room deep within the pediatric ward of a Brooklyn hospital. A group of slightly odd hospital workers are gathered around her. For many of them, this is their first job. They clean surgical scrubs, empty bedpans, thaw frozen peas in steaming vats to be served and snubbed on patients' tray tables. The candidate knows the woes of these workers, most of whom are women. She speaks of their struggle to feed their own children, and she soothes their anxieties about money, sickness, condescending bosses, and ungrateful patients. The candidate moves among them to clasp hands, to listen as they tell her about their lives. They admire her crisp pantsuit, her perfectly coiffed blonde hair, her rouged cheeks lifting in a caring smile. They have, of course, seen her before, but they see her differently now. Okay, that primary colors-like scene hasn't happened yet, but it will if, as New York Democrats hope, Hillary Rodham Clinton runs for the Senate from New York in 2000. Just the talk of such a campaign has buoyed their hopes of holding the seat of Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who is retiring. But the speculation that she could win such a race has also lifted the spirit and burnished the image of Hillary Clinton, which is why, despite all the buzz, she has delayed her decision-making. And why shouldn't she? No point in closing off options before she has to. And Hillary, by all appearances, loves the Empire State. The First Lady has orchestrated a regular presence for herself in Manhattan, where she has met with hospital workers, society mavens, and United Nations peacemakers. She has palled around with tabloid gossips, hammed it up with Rosie O'Donnell, mugged for the cameras with Gwyneth Paltrow at a movie premiere. And last fall, she helped Representative Chuck Schumer snatch away Republican Al D'Amato's Senate seat. She owns New York, explains Judith Hope, the chair of the state Democratic Party. Her candidacy would be a thrilling event. Elected Democrats would also welcome Hillary to their ranks. She's one of the most exciting human beings ever to get involved in politics, says Congressman Charles Rangel, who represents Harlem. She'd be a first-class candidate, says Schumer Chief of Staff Josh Issay. She has a mastery of the issues, and New York is crazy about her. Hillary's flirtation with the Senate run is a provocative political fantasy. The truth is that it's wishful thinking, a theatrical distraction from a party in statewide disarray. By summer, the fundraising shakedown will begin in earnest, and before it can, the First Lady must make a big decision. My prediction? Hillary Clinton will not run for the Senate, and here's why. Number one, logistics. To run for the Senate from New York, you need state residency, nothing more than a place to own or rent on the day of the general election. But Hillary lives in Washington and cannot afford to do otherwise. Thanks, Ken Starr. A Manhattan pied-à-terre is notoriously costly, and Hillary, frankly, would need more than a one-bedroom. The First Lady does have friends who would gladly loan her a loft or a Park Avenue area, but even if well-appointed friends were to offer rent-free digs, federal laws would evict Hillary. The lodging would constitute a campaign donation and would surely exceed federal limits. Gotham Gossips recently reported that the First Lady was house hunting uptown. Poppycock, says her spokeswoman, Marcia Berry. If I told you all the places she's been reportedly looking for real estate, it would cover the globe. That leaves only the commuter option, and the First Lady cannot travel lightly. Only with a full complement of security troops, staffers, and advanced planners who would need places to lay their heads and recharge their cell phones. Each DC to NYC excursion could cost more than $30,000. That depletes any campaign war chest pretty quickly. The second reason is Rudy Giuliani. Should Hillary embark on her carpetbagger candidacy, she'd be stepping into the den of the most imperious of all Empire State polls. New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, by law prevented from running for a third term, is aching for a new challenge, and it will probably be the Senate race. Like Hillary, Giuliani is a national figure with fundraising clout. Unlike Hillary, Giuliani has run for office before, and he lives in New York. Expect him to hit Hillary hard on her backing of a Palestinian state. Third reason is Bill Clinton. The First Lady's liberal positions are popular in New York City, and she seems to be liked throughout the state. After Bill Clinton's latest State of the Union speech, he and Hillary traveled to Buffalo, where they were greeted like royalty by 20,000 subjects. But Bill won't always help Hillary. His popularity will almost surely decline now that the scandal is over and the Republicans have stopped making him look good. Giuliani, a former prosecutor, could ask needling questions about that little $100,000 Hillary made in 1 year on the futures market. Do voters want 6 more years of a scandal-plagued Clinton? The next reason is Republican senators. The people who've been trashing her husband for the past 7 years are the people Senator Clinton would have to work with. Why would Hillary freely choose to spend time with Trent Lott and Jesse Helms? She doesn't want to sacrifice her last 2 years in the White House for the chance to wait until 2 in the morning, while some blowhard finishes his filibuster, one Hillary confidant says. Another explains she doesn't even like traveling with Bill because she gets less attention than when she travels alone. So imagine her sharing the spotlight with 99 other senators. The next reason Hillary won't run: home is where her heart is. Why would Hillary run in New York when Illinois, her home state, beckons? Peter Fitzgerald, a young conservative recently elected senator from Illinois, comes up for re-election in 2004. Fitzgerald is more conservative than his state, and he's vulnerable. Odds are, Hillary could knock him off. The next reason is fatigue. She's so tired. What she needs is to regroup, tend to personal business for a little while. She will focus on the Clinton residential library to be built in Little Rock, and Hillary will reconnect with her Arkansas touchstones, her mother prime among them. Hillary reveled in writing a book a few years back, and by 2001, she would be freer to contemplate the fullness of her White House experience. And God knows, publishers could help resolve the Clintons' debts with the inking of one book contract. She needs to make a lot of money to live in the style to which she's become accustomed, says someone who knows Hillary well. The planes, the hairdressers, and don't think she hasn't gotten used to that. So consider, as her protective friends implore, all that Hillary could become besides a politician. She's a cultural icon, as an international crusader for oppressed women, and she's a resilient power mom. When she sat for portraits by Vogue's Annie Leibovitz last year, she showed her fantasies. She could be a world traveler, as her crisp, white-bloused Kristen Scott Thomas pose suggested. She could charm potentates and populaces, as her Evita-like ball gown pose revealed. She could even explore a new romance. Remember that tight sweater and silhouette? But one persona was conspicuously missing from Hillary's portfolio: U.S. Senator. April 1999, George Magazine, Why Hillary Won't Be Senator. Just happens to be the same year that JFK Jr.'s plane goes down, and there's a lot of talk amongst our community about what really happened that year. What do you guys think happened? I'd love to know your thoughts in your comments below, and I look forward to reading the next article with you here soon.
Magazine, George, which is a hoot of a magazine. I thought you were a lawyer.
I was.
What happened?
Well, we decided, actually taking a cue from folks like yourself and you around the 1992 election, that there was an opportunity here to change the definition of a political magazine. Certainly the way Americans were accessing information about politics and politicians was changing. Candidates were appearing on late-night talk shows, on talk radio, on sitcoms, and there was a kind of a leveling process, and while the rest of media clearly had caught up with that, we felt that political magazines per se hadn't.
Your mother was a hell of an editor at Doubleday.
That's what I hear.
Would she have liked George?
I think she would have.